Hey, welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about technologies that mediate our need for safety. We're going to talk about four: dogs, which I know is weird, but we got to do it anyway, alarm systems, guns, and the internet. So we'll begin with dogs. As I made the argument in, I think it was the first video, dogs have been selectively bred. They are a thing that exists in nature, obviously, so not a technology, but the types of dogs that we have now that often protect our houses, German Shepherds, Pit Bulls, Rottweilers, Doberman Pinschers, and other dogs as well. These are all dogs that exist because of specific human decision making and manipulation. So we're going to call them a technology, in part because I want you guys thinking a little bit more broadly about technology. Toward the end of the course, we're going to start thinking about the manipulation of the human genome, or the integration of medical technologies into our bodies, and start thinking about ourselves as being technologies as well. So we want to broaden our understanding a little bit of it. Okay, so dogs. Pros and cons of dogs. Pro, dogs are awesome, and they also keep us safe. But the main pro is that they're fantastic. The con is that in keeping us safe, they also are a little bit overzealous sometimes. About 800,000 Americans are bitten by dogs each year. Most not fatal, hardly any are fatal, although there are some, and you hear about those. But 800,000 people, and about a fifth of those requiring medical attention. So there's a con to it, and it's a con that will be repeated when we get down here. The idea that in the process of keeping ourselves safe, we make decisions that end up at times endangering other people. Now, I want to take you back to the idea that we evolved as pack animals. We evolved to be able to think, if something is good for me, it's good for the group. Although probably the thinking of that was actually reversed. If it's good for the group, it's good for me. Now, with the ideology of individualism in America, we tend to think of ourselves first. And the result of that is that some of our decision making about our own safety can be endangering to other people. Okay, that's it for dogs. Alarm systems. Generally speaking, alarm systems are purely, in terms of our own safety, are just great. If you want one, it's going to be a thing that is going to make you a little bit safer, at least a little bit, and will also, for the most part, alleviate psychological stress and anxiety. You feel safer as well as being safer. So that's positive. The downside, potentially, for some people is that installing an alarm system can lead to a little sense of, I have this because I need this, and therefore I am at a basic level not safe. Now, that isn't necessarily a reason to not get an alarm system. It's something that has to be dealt with. You have to be aware of the fact that that stream of feelings that is inside of you, the stream of thoughts that, oh my gosh, I'm not safe, America's not a safe place, those are affected by the technologies that we have. Obviously, they're affected by the technology of television and the internet in terms of pumping media messages into our brains, but also just the very fact of getting an alarm system can have that converse effect of making you feel like, well, I've got this for a reason, I'm safe in here, but it's because the outside world is less safe than it should be. So pros and cons for alarm systems as well. Although, kind of interestingly, that con, the mental health component of alarm systems, it really depends on the type of person that you are. Some interpersonal variables that could lead to that either being mentally health beneficial by reducing stress, or mentally health detrimental by increasing stress. All right, third, Guns. So about in America, America has by far more guns than any other country in the world. We have about 120 guns for every 100 people in the country. The country with the next highest gun ownership rate is Yemen, which is a mess of a country. No offense to Yemenis people, but politically it's a mess. At the time that I'm recording this, it's in civil war, and they have about 52, 53 guns per 100 people. So less than half the rate of gun ownership that America has. About 1/3 of Americans. So most of those guns, it's not like it's evenly distributed. The people who own guns tend to own more than one, not all people, but a lot of people do. So it's about 1/3 of American adults own guns. About 44% of American adults live in a house in which there is a gun. So on the pro side, the vast majority of gun owners say they enjoy owning a gun and say that they feel safer owning a gun. About 81% of Americans say they feel safer owning a gun. So that is a big pro. You own a gun and you are likely to feel safer. Good. The con is that people living in a gun in their home are about twice as likely to die by homicide as people who live in a house without a gun. People who live in a house with a gun are about 3 times as likely to die by suicide as people living in a gun-free household. Now, that isn't to say this isn't like a anti-gun lecture or anything like that. What it is to say is you want to be aware of those statistics if that's a direction that you want to go, and you want to, because those are just the statistics. It doesn't mean that the majority of people who own guns end up in situations of violence. It just means you are at an increased likelihood for it, and you would want to do what you can to mitigate that issue. Okay, so we've dealt with dogs, we've dealt with alarm systems, we've dealt with guns, we're dealing with the internet now. The internet, we don't often think of it this way, but we should, at least every once in a while. The internet basically allows the world to access to your home. If you have the internet, you have to assume that people are going to at least potentially be able to access your private information. People use the internet. You can use the internet in conjunction with an alarm system to be able to monitor your home via an app while you're away. People who do that usually will do it in terms of cameras and motion sensors. What you have to be aware of in that situation is that's hackable. So I install cameras in my home. I have to be aware of the fact that that is potentially hackable and somebody else could access those cameras. I don't say that to freak you out. I do, actually, a little bit. I say that to freak you out so that you are on guard about that. You want to be aware of the fact that that's a possibility. If you have a security system that's internet linked, you're importing surveillance system into your home. And when you import surveillance system into your home, you don't always know who is surveilling you. So sorry, that's super freaky and dystopian. But it's important to bear that in mind. Obviously, it is super helpful, a big pro, to be able to monitor your home when you are away, to be able to check on things. But the con is that if it's hacked, other people can get access to that as well. Okay, those are the technologies that mediate the need for safety, at least for home safety in our society. Where we're going to go from here, so we've kind of dealt with these, main technologies that we use to meet our needs for shelter and safety. What I want to talk about in the next video is, really importantly, anytime a person has a technology, it changes us. Human beings are fundamentally malleable. So what kind of person are you and I because these technologies are things we use in our day-to-day life? That's where we'll go in the next video. I'll see you then.